the reason I haven't been more successful is because I've had this false belief that I control my daily actions, when in fact I don't. And I would dare say that everybody listening to this podcast has that same false belief that I had.
Welcome to the Leader's Mindset, where I bring you conversations with leaders who are making an impact in business and our communities. Today, I'm here with John Mitchell. He's the founder of Think It Be It and the author of The Missing Secret, and he's teaching the science of success to high achievers. Thanks for joining us, John.
Hey, I'm glad to be here, Jason.
Hey, a quick interruption before we jump into the questions. It's something I want to talk about that I use every single day. You've heard me talk about how noisy the news has gotten. Inform.now is how I fix that for myself. It texts me the day's facts every morning, no bias, no clickbait, no ads. I liked it enough to partner with them. So full transparency, I earned a small referral if you upgrade. But if you want the news without the noise, it's at inform.co/JLD. That's infmd.co/JLD. Okay, back to the interview. Yeah, it's great to have you here. We've been trying to get this one done for a while, and we're finally making it happen. So it's great to finally have you on the show. So let's just jump right into it. What's the missing secret? Tell us that. We'll all be good, and we can make this a short episode.
Okay, well, I'm going to tease you a little. So the book Think and Grow Rich, which has been read by 150 million people and is the top book in the world on success by a factor of 10, says that there's a secret for success, but the author only gives us half of the secret. And the half that he gives us is that everything starts with a thought. Well, when I read that, I'm like, okay, I buy that, but where do you go from there? And so it took me reading the book 20 times over 2 months to figure out the full secret. And I'm anxious to share it with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. I read your book. It's fantastic. There's a lot of really practical stuff in it. And that's one of the things I find with a lot of these books, Think and Grow Rich being one of them, but there's a lot of these other books out there that kind of give you that first piece. And I finish the book and I'm always left with the, well, then what?
Yeah, exactly.
But your book comes in and gives you the then what, and we'll get into some of the then what. So it's clearly enhancing the lessons that you learned with Think and Grow Rich that are in the book Think and Grow Rich. I'm curious, you said you've read it 20 times. What was your first experience with Think and Grow Rich?
Well, I tell you, great question. I've kept a journal since I was in my 20s. And, so I read Think and Grow Rich when I was 50, and it completely changed my life. But I read it when I was 41, and it did not change my life. There was a notation in my journal that this book, Think and Grow Rich, was great, but it didn't change my life. And the reason it didn't is because when I was 50, I realized that I had the idea, as I tell my story, as I had the idea, I'm going to go find the top book in the world on success, and I'm going to apply that book word for word to my life. And when I was 41, I didn't know that Think and Grow Rich was the top book in the world on success, literally by a factor of 10. And that's why I wasn't pushed to figure out the secret like I was when I was 50. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. What pushed you? What was going on in your life at 50 that pushed you to be ready for those? Sometimes we're not ready for those lessons, right? I know There's been a bunch of things I've revisited in my life where I go, oh, I didn't get it back then, but I get it now. What was going on in your life at 50 that said, when you reread it, said, oh, now I'm ready for the lessons and now I get it?
Right. Well, when I was 50, I just wasn't as successful as I thought I should be. And I had started my career as a CPA, became an entrepreneur when I was 30, was in 7 different businesses in my 30s and 40s. But Jason, I hit 50, and I'm just not as successful as I think I should be. And I have 2 goals in my life: to make enough money so I didn't have to work, and to find the woman of my dreams. And like on the money, I always did pretty well, always made $200,000, $300,000 a year. But as materialistic as this sounds, when I hit 50, I realized I had to start netting $1 million a year. Just doing the math, that was the accountant coming out of me. I just saw that if I continue to make $200,000 a year, I'm not going to have the exceptional life that I dreamed of. And then on the girl, I knew finding the girl was going to be more important than the money, candidly. But on the girl, I'd never been married at 50, although I did a lot of interviewing. Um, although my friends called it begging, which is probably a little closer to the truth. But that was where I was at 50, and and so that's why. And it probably happened 3 months after I turned 50. That pearl of wisdom comes into my head to go find the top book in the world on success, whatever book that is, and apply it word for word to my life. And so um, I remember the night that sort of came to me. I start doing the research, and Jason, I was blown away that there was one book that had been read by 150 million people, and it was the top book in the world on success. I'm like, this is setting up so perfect. Who knew? And one sort of side note on this. Today, I find only 1 in 7 people has ever heard of the book Think and Grow Rich. To me, that is stunning. That it shows you the amount of clutter in this world. If there's one book that's a top book on the world on success by a factor of 10, and only 1 in 7 people has ever heard of it, that's a huge um, red flag to me about society, that there's that much clutter that we can't recognize the profound from the mundane. But I digress. And so, anyway, when I discovered that, I'm like, here we go. So I race out, buy the book, read the book, and then I discover the problem. As I mentioned at the start, author says there's a secret for success, but he only gives us half of the secret. And so I'm bummed out, and I mope around for probably 3 weeks, and then one day I just get up and go, John, just man up, figure out the damn secret. And so I immersed myself in the book, probably read it 20 times over 2 to 3 months, and ultimately was blessed to figure out the secret. And I created a 12-minute a day technique to apply it. And I started applying it to a new business I was starting in the reverse mortgage field. And quickly, my income starts doubling and doubling and doubling to where approximately 4 or 5 years later, I'm blessed to be making 25 times the 200 to 300 grand a year I'd been making the prior 20 years. And and if, and what was particularly interesting, Jason, was I could see why it was happening. I was just playing the game of life at a higher level. I could do things I could never do before. I had a level of control over my life I'd never experienced before. And I just became fascinated that you could take two key scientific principles and apply them to your life and so dramatically impact your success. And so about 13 years ago, I finally had enough money so I didn't have to work. And I thought, okay, I'm going to share this with the world. And, uh, and so I sell my company, and a month or two later, I meet the former chancellor and president here at the University of Texas, and he says, hey, you got to teach this at University of Texas, and why don't we teach it together? And that led to him introducing me to the athletic director. And he says, well, I want to learn this 12-minute a day technique. And so I teach it to him, and that leads to becoming the mental coach for the 18 head coaches here at University of Texas. And so today I teach my methodology to MBAs, and the name of the class is Advanced Leadership of Self, the Science of Leveraging Yourself. So that's my story.
That it's a fantastic story. I love the part where you say, "Hey, this has been good enough for me. I've achieved the success I was looking for. Let me share it with the rest of the world. As you shared it with the rest of the world, you learned some things about who you were trying to share it with. And this
Right.
book isn't for everyone. Tell us about the 2%. Tell us who your method is for. And maybe if you're listening to this or watching this and you're finding out it's not for you, what are some steps you can take to make it for you?
Yeah, great question. I used to think, a number of years ago that it was for everybody, and that's not true because I guess, I don't know, probably 7 years ago or so, I decided if I'm going to spend the rest of my life sharing this, I want to take it to the top expert in the world, whoever he or she might be, on success, and see what they think about it. See if there's anything similar to it. See if there's any flaws in it. And so I decided that Darren Hardy is the top expert in the world on success. And so I write a big check. I take Jen, my wife, who, by the way, I met through using this methodology. And so we flew out to La Jolla, California for 3 days. And the moment comes, we're sitting down with Darren. It's just Jen and me and Darren. And I hand him the template and I explain to him the 12-minute a day technique. And he looks at it pretty closely and he goes, "Well, this is really good." But he says, "John, people aren't going to spend 12 minutes a day on this." And Jason, I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, at 25x my income, Time Magazine did a cover story on the science behind it, and we're applying the central concept of the top book in the world on success to people's lives. I mean, what do you mean they're not going to spend 12 minutes a day on it? And he sort of smiles and kicks back and he says, "John, I've been in the success business for 25 years, and the dirty little secret of the success business is that more success is merely a preference for the vast majority of people." And he says that's 98% of people. He says what you've created is only for the 2% where more success is a necessity. And as he said that, I I realized how unenlightened I had been because I was looking at the world like everybody was a John Mitchell, and I saw what he was saying, that that's not the reality. But what ended up happening, which was interesting, was after I absorbed that for a couple of weeks, then I'm like, well, I'll just go find more John Mitchells. I'll go find entrepreneurs making 200, 300 grand a year that want to start netting $1 million a year, and I'll teach them the methodology, and I'll charge them $20,000. I'll teach them over 6 weeks, and to lure them in, I gave them a money back guarantee, where if I couldn't double your income within a year, I'd give you your money back. Their only requirement was they had to be netting $200,000 a year minimum, because I wanted people that were at that level at least, and so off I go, and I do that for about 18 months. It works every time. Never had to give anybody their money back because this is pure science. If you do it, it works. And but two things came of that. One is, candidly, I didn't like coaching. I didn't like pulling on people. I didn't, I would explain, do this, and I get stage of life. I'm like, I don't want to be pulling on you. Just do it. And the other thing is, I saw how unleveraged it was to, teach one on one, and so after 18 months, I just sort of evolved to other things, started coming to me from the University of Texas, and it seemed like that was and plus I did my book, which brought leverage to the process. So that's probably a long answer to a short question.
It's a long answer, but it's a great answer. And why I like that is so many entrepreneurs start out with, well, my thing is for everyone, whether it's a product or a service, whatever it is, right? My thing is for everyone. And a lot of us have to learn that hard lesson. No, our thing is not for everyone. There's a very specific group of people it's for. And sometimes it's hard as an entrepreneur to find that. You got some very powerful advice from someone who is an expert at a significant financial cost to get that, but you adapted that advice and you found success doing that. And then you saw, once I've niched, then I have to figure out how to scale. And so many entrepreneurs have trouble with the niching, then the scaling. They try to jump right to the scaling, and you figured out the niche and then said, okay, how can I scale this without losing the quality of people I want to work with?
Right. Well, now, and one thing I notice, and I'd love your opinion about this, but when I meet people, I'll ask them, how do you create success in your life? And let's all ask that to your audience. How do you create success in your life? Well, most people stumble around for an answer because nobody's asked them that question. What's your take on that?
My take is the same, and I very much was in that boat as well. Of I'm kind of trying things, I'm throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks, and it wasn't until I started to really systematize things.
Yes.
Much in the way you talk about in the book. I'm not going to give away too much of what's in the book because I want the audience to go get it and read it. But when I started to systematize things, it started to free my brain up to start to think more strategically about the things that I needed to think about to gain success. And that's not to say I'm perfect at it. I still have days I struggle with that. But systematizing things, building routines, automating things frees my brain up to be conscious, which we'll talk about in a bit, be conscious about what I'm doing.
You hit it exactly. Because I see that most people are just winging life. They don't have a way of doing life. They don't have a system for doing life. And winging life is what gets you the average life. I never wanted the average life. I wanted the exceptional life, which is way more than just about the money. And this past semester, I got tuned into James Clear's, who wrote Atomic Habits. He has this great saying that you don't rise to the level of your goals, you sink to the level of your systems. Just what you're saying. And so you need a system for leadership of self. And when you have a system for leadership of self, that's what makes it advanced leadership of self, as opposed to just winging life like most people do.
And I will say, in my own case and some other cases I've seen, applying that discipline that I had in the military to my entrepreneurship life, my personal life, building these routines, building these systems, was what I needed to do to even answer the question of, do I really want to be successful? Never mind, am I willing to do what it takes to be successful? Do I want to be successful in the way you're talking about success?
Right. Well, and I think as I look at it, and I'm thinking about this relative to this new book I'm writing. If you can open a person's mind at the first blush to make them realize you don't have a way of creating success, you can't answer that question. I mean, you'll stumble around for something on here's how I create success, but most people can't answer the question. Well, that'd be a big tip off that's a problem, I think.
100%. And that's who your book is for, right? Someone who's
Right.
like dancing around this, what do I want? I kind of know the outcomes I want. I want the money, I want the house, I want the girl, all that kind of stuff. But how, do I really want success to get that? And your book is great for that. I want to shift gears for just a second. One area you were really successful before you started all of this and built these systems out was you used to own the most romantic restaurant in Dallas.
I did.
How did you get into the restaurant business, and then how did you achieve that honor?
Well, blind luck is the short answer. So I was in my mid-30s, and I launched as an entrepreneur in real estate development, and then a buddy of mine and I had a bank, in the Dallas area, and so this was in the 80s, which was not the best time to own a bank, by the way. And so as I'm sort of pivoting away from real estate and banking, I'm like, I'm going to go find businesses, small businesses, and I'm just going to run them better than the competition. And from being a CPA, I had sort of experience of seeing how businesses were run, and so I thought that was a pretty good idea. And the first opportunity that came my way was a restaurant, and I'm thinking, what would be the worst business to get into? I would say that'd be a restaurant, but I had gotten tuned into this restaurant in Dallas called Nero's. The lady who created it was brilliant. It was sort of done in New York City, 1940s. Played opera music. The food was spectacular. They had a beautiful hostess that knew everybody's name, and I'd come there. Only place in town I could come where they knew who the heck I was, and I become aware that it's for sale because the owner had added a wine room and had paid for it by not paying her payroll taxes. So she had challenges with the IRS, and so to make a long story short, I was able to work out a deal that there was almost no way I could lose. The the business was packed on Fridays and Saturdays, always a 2-hour wait, and it was voted most romantic restaurant by D Magazine, a year or two after I took it over. But that was all to her credit, not mine. So that's how I got into it. But I had all sorts of, because it was dark too. We had all sorts of celebrities coming, like Stevie Ray Vaughan would come in, Paul Simon would come in. I even got a call from the White House, and George Bush wanted to come. So it was totally cool.
Yeah, it sounds like a cool, fun part of your life. I'm curious because you said you got into it through luck. I'm sure there are a lot of things you did by accident that also helped make it successful. Is there anything looking back on it now that you have your systems in place? Were you accidentally or by luck doing the things that made this successful that are part of your system now?
Well, I never thought about it like that. The best thing I did was not screw it up, and added maybe some financial discipline to it. But at the end of the day, I saw that media advertising doesn't really work all that well, and so I had I created a system for. I mean, you'll find this funny. In the Dallas Business Journal, they would list every week people that got a promotion. So I would, every week like clockwork, I'd send out, a personal handwritten card with my card and say, "Come join us at Nero's to celebrate your promotion." And that worked pretty damn well, actually. Uh, not very leveraged again, but it was better than any advertising we could do.
Well, what's great about it in the context of what we're talking about here is it's conscious, it's deliberate, it's focused, it's repeatable. There's so many good things about it. Yes, it's not really scalable. I mean, now it is with social media and some of the other things we've got and AI and all that kind of stuff. But, and it leveraged on everyone you wrote to probably had been by and seen the place at least once. And they said, this is a great reason for me to go in there finally.
Right. Exactly. Well, once I could get them in, they were hooked. So, it worked.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I want to take a break from the business questions. I want to play a game with you. Are you up for a game?
Sure.
All right. The name of this game is Rapid Response. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I want you to respond with the first thing that comes to mind. Don't get too hung up on the word rapid. You don't need to give one-word answers. You're not really on the clock. Elaborate as much or as little as you'd like to answer the question. We just want to get to know John Mitchell a little better. Okay? All right. John Mitchell, rapid response round. Your time begins now. A podcast recommendation.
Peter Attia's podcast.
Yeah, we hear that one a lot. I haven't started to listen to that one yet. I need to add that one to my list. So, what is a practice you'd like to see more people embrace?
Leadership of self, and stop winging life.
Yeah, well, fortunately, someone's going to have a book coming out about that in the next year or so, right?
Right.
We'll talk about that in a bit. Someone we should all be paying attention to.
Let me think about that. Ourselves.
Good answer. What is either your get pumped up song or your walk on music?
Boy, that is a good question. I'm into music. In fact, I play blues guitar. But at my class, every class, I start the first. Well, while everybody's coming in, I play a 10-minute soundtrack of songs that are my favorite songs and students' songs, and so I have songs that are not typically known, but they're spectacular songs. At least I think they are. Like there's a song "Voices from the Moon" by Galactic Caravan. Nobody's heard of it, but it's fabulous.
That's a fantastic idea. I'm curious, what is the response of the young people doing MBAs to blues music?
Well, most of it is not blues music, candidly. I mean, I play that, but I don't play that for them. I will be tuned in to what they like, and I'll play a song or two that they like, and I'll play something that they've never heard of that I think is spectacular, just to introduce them to new music.
Love it. The biggest influence in your life?
Today, I would say, probably my wife.
All right. A book everyone should read.
I think two books maybe. Think and Grow Rich, obviously, and Psycho-Cybernetics, which is a classic book written in the 60s.
Okay. Well, I will check out Psycho-Cybernetics. I'm already familiar with Think and Grow Rich, but I'll check that out. The reason I asked that question is I'm just trying to look for stuff to add to my reading list. So
Right.
What's your favorite recreational activity?
I just bought a Lamborghini, and so I've enjoyed owning a Lamborghini.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's funny. Do you post it on Instagram?
No. I'm trying to stay low key with it. Like I have it's black with yellow calipers on the wheels. I don't want the flashy, purple Lamborghini. And I don't want the convertible. I want to low key it.
This is about the drive for you, not the attention.
Right. Yeah.
Very cool. What is your dream vacation spot?
Probably Lake Como, I would say. Probably Lake Como.
All right. A trend you're excited about?
I think the thing I am super excited about is I've, with the help of the University of Texas, the field of advanced leadership of self is absolutely available for the taking by myself and the University of Texas for a couple of reasons. Because it's an emerging field, and whoever defines it the best owns it. And I think we have defined it better than anybody else. But I would say the other thing, and probably even more compelling, is that we have an actual way of leading yourself. We provide the how to leadership of self, and I just did a research study using ChatGPT, and one of the things that it said that really I knew this, but it's interesting that it saw this. It says, everybody else in the leadership of self space and in that whole area, including personal development, misses a fundamental thing that up to 95% of a person's daily actions are unconscious. Well, that's significant because your daily actions determine your success in each area of your life. Therefore, if 95% of them are unconscious, you don't control the very thing that's determining your success. Just think about the profound ramifications of that. You don't control the very thing that's determining your success. And therefore, you have to gain control over those unconscious daily actions by rewiring your autopilot. And it takes 12 minutes a day. And when you do that, you're just playing the game of life at a whole new level. And so that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, I'm excited about that too. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But I do have one more fun question for you. What is your favorite sports team or player?
Well, of course, the University of Texas football team. I am tight with Steve Sarkisian, our coach, and your audience probably doesn't know this, but the University of Texas is the biggest brand in college sports. Takes in more money than Notre Dame or Ohio State, and we're proud of our athletic program because we've won the Directors Cup 5 of the last 6 years, and I've gotten to know Steve Sarkisian really well. He's come over to my house. I have masterminds for the 18 head coaches, and Arch Manning was in my class a couple of years ago. So Arch is one of my favorite players. So
it seems like Arch Manning would have showed up to your class with quite a strong foundation in the leadership of self.
Well, the answer is yes. Now he showed up in the first time I taught the class, and he was 19 years old, and which I guess he was a sophomore, and my stuff is probably over the head of most 19-year-olds, to be candid with you, but and that's sort of part of why it evolved to now I teach it to MBAs who are 6-7 years older, and they're stroking a check of $150,000 to get their MBA. They've just got a way higher interest in success. Not that Arch and the other ones don't. It's just the maturity factor, really.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for playing our game. It's nice to get to know you a little bit the way the other questions don't. I do want to dive into the science, especially of the conscious versus unconscious mind stuff. Tell us a little bit about that, how you learned about this, and then, what this means for us.
Okay. Well, let me explain the secret, and I'll try and do this relatively quickly, but I'll explain how I discovered it and what it is. So again, I'm 50 years old, and I'm reading Think and Grow Rich, and there was a little more going on in my life than just feeling the scarcity of time. My mom was dying of pancreatic cancer, and so Jason, every day I'd go after work and see her and love on her and hold her hand, and then every day I'd go in the cold, dark hospital parking lot and cry my eyes out. And I mean really cry my eyes out, like 45 minutes to an hour every night. And this goes on for like 6 to 8 weeks. And I'd never experienced that level of emotional upheaval every night. And obviously I'm feeling the impending loss of my mom, but I knew there was something way deeper going on. At the time I didn't know what it was, but I knew this is not normal. And so, later in retrospect, I saw that that I felt like I was letting my mom down with my life, because my mom and dad gave me everything. They sent me to Jesuit High School in Dallas when they didn't have the money. They sent me to the University of Texas. I didn't have to pay for a thing. And as my mom was leaving this world, um, I'm reflecting on all the advantages I had that she had given me, and all I had to show for my life at 50 was an average life. And I hated the average life because I just knew I was capable of so much more. But now I see that in retrospect, that feeling of letting my mom down was like rocket fuel and causing me to go deeper into Think and Grow Rich than maybe anyone ever had to figure out the secret. And I feel like that's why I was able to figure it out when maybe other people couldn't. But I remember the night that I figured out the secret, I'd gone and seen my mom and cried my eyes out in the parking lot. And Jason, this particular night felt different because it was snowing in Dallas, which doesn't happen very often. And so as I'm driving home, I see those big snowflakes hitting my windshield, and again, just felt different. And so I get home and I plop myself in my nice comfy chair and I start reading Think and Grow Rich for about the 20th time. And this particular night, I read that your daily actions determine your success in each area of your life. The cumulative effect of your daily actions will determine your success in your career, in your marriage, in your health. I read that and I'm like, I buy that. I never thought of success in that simple terms, that it's just your daily actions. Then I read something that totally surprised me. I read that essentially that 95% of your daily actions are unconscious. I'm like, I'd never heard that before. And so now I'm ready to go to bed and I'm wash my face and brush my teeth and put my little head on the pillow. And Jason, I cannot stop thinking about what I just read, that 95% of my daily actions are unconscious. And as I'm thinking about that, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. If my daily actions determine my success and 95% of them are unconscious, then I don't consciously control the very thing that's determining my success. And if I want to be more successful, I've got to gain control over those unconscious daily actions. And it was like a bolt of lightning hit me. I'm like, and then it made me realize, oh, the reason I haven't been more successful is because I've had this false belief that I control my daily actions, when in fact I don't. And I would dare say that everybody listening to this podcast has that same false belief that I had. But that was very freeing, because once I saw that, it all made sense. Because when I was 50, I remember thinking to myself, why are my results not matching my potential and my intelligence? Well, at that moment, I'm like, well, of course they're not. My greatest asset is my intelligence and intellect. And if my actions are unconscious, then I'm not engaging my greatest asset in controlling my actions. And that's when it all sort of came together, and the full secret of Think and Grow Rich came to me. And the full secret is what you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. And what that means is you step back from your life and you create immense clarity. Exactly the person you want to be, exactly what you want to accomplish, and precisely how you're going to achieve your clearly defined goals. And you take that clarity and put it on a template. In fact, the template will help you create the clarity. And then you feed that to yourself every day. It takes 12 minutes a day, and three things then happen. First thing that happens is you feel this immense sense of control over your life. Well, of course you would. You're feeding the succinct articulation of your desired life to yourself each day. Of course you'll feel control. Second thing is confidence, which is a direct result of the control. Plus, you're creating immense order in the mind. The mind thrives on order. When you're feeding the succinct articulation of your desired life to yourself every morning as your new morning routine, you're creating immense order in the mind, and you're de-stressing yourself. And your attitude is, hey, I got a plan, I'm executing the plan. And then the third thing that happens after 21 days, you rewire your autopilot, and then the right actions happen automatically without thinking. And once you start seeing that happening, it's a whole new ball game.
Yeah, and that's great advice. That was going to be my next question: is what can we do? Some practical steps. There's lots of great stuff in the book. Everyone should go get the book and read the book on how to go apply this and how you can start doing this today. I do have a question though, based on my own experience working through this myself, because I know there's people out there who are where I was years ago who are saying, "Not me. I'm always in conscious control of my actions."
Yeah.
That's not me. This is for somebody else, right? What does the science tell us about that? And then for someone watching or listening, what are some signs when they look back at what they did today that they might see their unconscious actually is driving their actions?
That is a great question, Jason. And it illustrates a great thing. The science is that what is actually happening is you take an action unconsciously, and then a couple of milliseconds later, you become conscious of it. And so it's not uncommon for people to say just what you said a minute ago, which is wait a minute, I'm conscious of everything I'm doing, so none of my actions are unconscious. Well, wrong. They're unconscious. You're just becoming conscious of them so quickly after that you're thinking that you're consciously taking the action, and then and that you're controlling your actions when in fact the action is happening unconsciously. Your intelligence and intellect is not driving the action, and you're just becoming aware of it after the fact. And I'll give you the audience an example of this, because we've been talking about it basically ethereal, but here's how it really works on a daily basis. And this is in my relationship with my wife. So every day we get going, and so in my 12-minute a day morning routine, I affirm that I am flexible, patient, and thoughtful, and what that means in our relationship. I also affirm that she is fundamentally different than me. She's does things slow and is people oriented, and I do things fast and I'm task oriented. So I read that every morning along with a lot of other things, and then we reconvene at about 6 p.m. and have dinner. And so in her world, everything has to be perfect. Napkins in place, everything perfect before the food is served. In my world, now keep in mind, I'm only thinking this. In my world, I'm thinking, babe, your boy is hungry. Just put the food on the table. I see it right there. Let's move it over here. Let's eat. But I'm only thinking that. And what happens is at the first hint of impatience on my part, an unconscious thought bubbles up to my conscious mind to be patient. And the thought ends up being, John, here's a golden opportunity to be patient. So what do? Well, I'm patient, because what has happened from reading my life GPS template each morning, I am taking what would otherwise be an autopilot response to blurt out something to push her to get the food on the table and irritate her, but I resist that temptation and keep my big mouth shut, and because what, saying anything to her is not going to speed it up, it's just going to irritate her. But you can see the power of how, when you're affirming the succinct articulation of your desired life and how you want to be and who you want to be, it ends up creating what I call this bubble up effect at exactly the right time. And like an example would be in my career, I affirm that I focus on the three things that move the needle in my career, and I define what they are. Well, at the first hint of ever feeling like I'm off in the weeds, an unconscious thought bubbles up to my conscious mind to focus on what moves the needle, and immediately I shift to that. Example in my health, at the first hint of hunger, the unconscious thought will bubble up to my conscious mind because I affirm what eating healthy is. At that first hint of hunger, I then conscious mind make the intelligence choice as to what I'm maybe going to eat for lunch or dinner. And so you can see, like in the Life GPS template, there's 40 or 50 things you're affirming to yourself every day, and you're creating this bubble up effect to where actions are being taken consciously instead of unconsciously. And it allows you to do the right actions consistently instead of sporadically. And this method also helps you define what the right actions are in a way that you probably can't now.
Yeah, and not only does it define for you and help you figure out what the right actions are, it kind of programs you to choose those first.
Right. And the other thing that I think is interesting is you're feeding the succinct articulation of your desired life as it exists at this moment. But from the act of reading it every day, you're continually refining it and tweaking it. And I see that all of our lives is a continual refinement of our understanding of it. But you can imagine the difference between the guy that's just winging life, just gets up, does whatever he does, versus the guy that is continually feeding the succinct articulation of his desired life and is continually refining what that life looks like in each area. I mean, it just gives you an edge in life. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what I've come to realize.
Yeah, and that's a perfect lead in. We talked about how this all started when you were 50 and you didn't feel as successful as you thought you should be.
Right.
What did being successful mean to you back then, and what does being successful mean to you now?
That's a great question. To me, being successful is playing the game of life at my full potential. And I think that at 50 would have been my response. It damn sure is my response now. And I see that not everybody in this world has that as their priority, to play the game of life at their highest potential. And but that certainly is me. I sort of have the feeling that's probably you. But a lot of people are like, well, sure, I'd like to, but it's not that big a deal if I don't. But I saw that if I really can play the game of life at my full potential, a lot of big things are going to happen. And that's how I look at it.
Fantastic. So we have a big tech audience. How are you incorporating technology into what you're doing?
Boy, I love this question. Two ways. First way is a couple of years ago, I created an AI algorithm where if a person wants to apply my methodology to their life, They just have to answer approximately 50 questions and then press a button. And 10 seconds later, my template is customized to their unique life. It makes it really very slick and easy to apply the methodology. Because the problem that I think a lot of people run into is when you say, well, you know, the concept of Think and Grow Rich is to, you know, create immense clarity about each area of your life and feed it to yourself each day. And they're like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. And then they start thinking about, you know, how to do that and what level of clarity are you talking about? They don't know how to do that. And so that's that the AI algorithm solves that problem. But the thing I'm particularly fascinated with now is that AI in the last 6 months has taken my methodology, I think, to the next level. And what I mean by that is at the end of the day, you got to take the right actions consistently. That's how success happens. You got to take the right actions consistently in your marriage, in your health, and in your career. Well, the right actions in your marriage and in your health are pretty clear. We know, you know, what it takes in those areas. In your career, way harder. And I have seen using AI, one of the problems is that your vision is constrained by the four walls of your mind. You have your own biases. You know what you know, and in creating this clarity that I'm talking about, like as example, when I was applying this to my life, one of the things I have you articulate is here's my 3-year vision and here's the 4 or 5 milestones to get there. Well, when you create that, again, you're constrained by the limits of your own mind. You're going to come up with whatever you come up with. But when you add in AI and you say to it, here's my 3-year vision, here's the 4 or 5 milestones to get there, improve it, you will be blown away by what it gives you. And I also teach this methodology of stepping aside time 2 times a week to just deep think. And I use Chat GPT and Claude in my thinking sessions. I have the version where I can actually have a conversation with the AI, and I think that's so powerful because I don't even know what I'm going to ask it. We just get into it, and it's like my mentor, and it's also like my co-collaborator now. That is not we're not constrained by my own mind. And I'm telling you, it has been transformative.
I agree. I have recently been through an exercise working with Claude on assessing all of the activities I'm involved in. And and some of those things are, I'm doing this, I don't know where to start. And
Yeah,
how much ability AI has to bring clarity and structure to a thought process. Now, the caveat is with AI is, remember, you're in charge. It's a tool. You don't have to take every recommendation it gives you, but just the amount of clarity and structure that it's helped me find, and then even to the point of, it will say to me, yesterday you answered this question this way, today you answered it this way. What's the real truth here? I mean, that's how sophisticated it's getting, is it's able to say, hey, you're answering this question different ways. Let's get to the bottom of it.
right. Well, you know, think about this. You'd be a good one to see if you agree with this. I think that the difference between the 2% and the 98% is widening. And I say that because I see myself 9 months ago in terms of what my capabilities were and what my mental capabilities were and what it is today. And it is substantially higher. Now, my friends would probably say, well, you're working from such a low level, of course it's higher. But I honestly feel like, my mental capabilities are 2 to 3 times greater than they were 9 months ago, just from understanding how to use both Claude and ChatGPT to get past the four corners of my mind.
I absolutely agree 100%. It is such an incredible tool for clarity, for structure, for getting beyond the borders of your own mind, and because that's hard to do, right?
Yeah.
That's hard to do on your own. And if you've got a good group of mentors, if you've got a good peer group, if you've got a good, like board advising you, that's great. But they are also limited by their own minds. And what's great about AI is it has the whole training set of data that it's been trained on that it can use to help bring structure and clarity to what you're doing.
Right. I mean, it's great to get the opinions of other people, but the reality is you got to get them in the right headspace. You got to have the conversation in it, and I love talking to people. I love talking to you and just hearing your perspective. But there's so much power in to pick up this device and punch Claude and say, here's what I'm thinking about. What am I not seeing? I mean, way more efficient than saying that even to my best friend or anybody that's, I want their opinion about.
Yeah, and this was something we experienced a lot in the military was because we were all trained the same way, coming up through the Air Force in our career field, working on the same things. Sometimes we would have blind spots together, even though we were different individuals, because we'd all been trained the same way. And AI gives us an opportunity to get beyond that.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it's a game changer, and I tell you, I have concerns about the future because I think AI in the very near future is going to radically change the job market, and I think that if you want to be successful, boy, you better be on top of using AI effectively, and you better not be winging life and have an actual way of leading yourself, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people are scared of the technology, they're afraid of the technology, but you've got to look at it. Like look at it like you're building homes, right? If you're not using AI now and whatever it is you're doing, it's like you're trying to build a home with hand tools instead of power tools.
Well, and I've come to realize, my talent, I think, is I can take the complex and make it simple. And as I look at AI, I see that the first level of using AI is improving emails and maybe improving written documents. Then the second level, and maybe the most significant level, is having back and forth verbal conversations, not typing, but verbal conversations to expand what you see with your own mind. Then the third level is getting AI to do things for you, and I don't know. That's how I see it today. That there's those three levels. I don't know. What do you think?
I do, and in fact, my journey with AI, other than producing content, writing that kind of stuff, getting into automating tasks is pretty recent. It's only a few months old, but once I started getting one task, like with the email,
Right.
working the way I wanted it to, it generated new ideas for new things I wanted the AI to do, and that again, it's brought structure to it, it's brought clarity to it, and that frees my brain up to think about the big picture of what should I be doing, what's the outcome I want, not thinking about the step-by-step details of doing something.
Right. I tell you, one of the things I see in what I'm doing is like in teaching MBAs and really in the world of academia. Academia wants proven results. They don't want things that are theories and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work. And I've created a before and after survey for my MBA students to document the transformation that I create in teaching them advanced leadership of self. And Claude blew me away by what it created. Now, I created the first version, but it made what I created 10 times better. And it reminds me in this process of getting all this approved at the University of Texas. It took 2 years to get it through because I feel so honored to teach at the McCombs School of Business, which according to U.S. News and World Reports is one of the top business schools in the country. And so I think that's also um, valuable to your audience to see that this is not another get rich quick scheme. This is something that has been vetted at the highest level.
Yeah, one of the things I learned in my last assignment in the Air Force, it was an assignment working at Air War College as an instructor, and I got kind of an introduction to what it's like to be on that side of academia, not as a student, but as a teacher. And one of the things I learned is academia is not just interested in what you know. Academia is very interested in how do we know this is true,
Right.
and that's an adjustment I had to make in that assignment. But that's something that I think is very important about what you said is you didn't just go to the University of Texas and say, here's what I know, let me teach it. They asked you the question, how do you know this is true, right? And,
right.
And once you could answer those questions with clarity, they said, come on in, we love that.
Right. Well, I had the advantage of the athletic department went to the business school and said, hey, this guy's got something like we haven't seen before. Why don't you create a class for it? And part of the idea with the athletic department is all the big athletic departments have this goal of making their athletes successful in the real world, which is the purpose of college. But college doesn't generally do that, and so the big athletic programs are owning that idea, and that's why they went to McCombs and said, hey, this would be pretty good if we get all our athletes taught this. So
yeah, I think it's great. I think it's sorely needed, not just for the athletes, for every undergraduate student.
Right.
All right. So what's coming up for you in the next few months? Tell me about the new book you're working on.
Well, it's like I said, it's Advanced Leadership of Self, the Science of Leveraging Yourself. And I want to make it the Bible for the advanced leadership of self space in the world, really. And I see that with the University of Texas platform, it's an amazing platform. We have 2 or 3 Nobel Prize winners on the faculty at UT, and it's a platform that I see is immensely more valuable than me being a guy that's got something that's great. Very hard for me to rise above the clutter to get the world to recognize what I have. But when you're doing it from the platform of the University of Texas, and the fact that we can own the space is, I think, powerful, because today in the world of academia, there's not the space. Advanced leadership of self doesn't really exist, because leadership of self is described in many ways, not so much by that term, but in my opinion, that term so clearly defines the space, and I think there's almost magic in those 4 words, advanced leadership of self. People go, I don't know what the heck that is, but I'm damn sure interested in it, or at least the right people have that attitude. And
well,
so,
I can't wait to read the book when it comes out, and we'll have you back to talk about that when it's available for everyone.
That'd be great.
All right. Any other advice you'd like to leave emerging leaders or entrepreneurs out there?
I tell you, this may be the parting idea. quick story. Do you have kids or grandkids?
I don't.
Okay. Well, I never had kids of my own, but I now have 3 grandkids. And so about 5 years ago, when the first one was born, we go over to Hannah's house, and the baby's one day old, and for some reason, Jason, they hand me the baby, and Hannah and Ginger walk away, and I'm holding this little girl close to my chest. I feel the warmth of her body. She's a day old, and big tears start streaming down my face because I think how precious life is, and I'm thinking this little girl's going to live to be 100 years old, and the quality of her life and what she achieves in life is going to come down to one thing: the quality of the thoughts that are going on in her head most of the time. And I'm like, by God, I'm going to influence those thoughts. But how that relates to our audience is I saw how precious this one day old little girl's life is, and your life is precious. Your life is precious. And so when you put your head on the pillow tonight, think about the last 3 years. And do you want the next 3 years of your life to be like the last 3 years? And if the answer is no, stop winging life. I'm showing you a way to create the exceptional life, and it takes 12 minutes a day.
I think that's a great place to leave it. Thank you so much for joining us today, John. This has been a great episode, really educational for everyone. I can't wait to start applying some of the things we talked about and some of the things I read about in the book. Where can everyone find you so they can also thank you for joining us today?
So go to themissingsecret.org, themissingsecret.org, and I have a 9-minute video, free video, that explains the full secret of Think and Grow Rich, shows the template, and just watch it. And then if you like what you see, you can buy my book, The Missing Secret of the legendary book, Think and Grow Rich.
Yep. Everybody go buy the book. You've got 9 minutes to watch a video. I know you've got 12 minutes a day to do these steps, so definitely worth it. John, thank you again for joining us. And I want to thank all of you for watching and listening, however you found this podcast. If you found this conversation valuable, go ahead and share it with someone who can use it. Leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe and give us a 5-star review, since I'm asking everybody for favors. If you're on a podcast platform where you can leave a review, leaving us a 5-star review would really help spread the word about this podcast. So we've got lots more amazing interviews coming your way. Go out there, do great things today. Onward and upward. One last thing before you go, like I mentioned at the top, Inform.now is the news by text I use every single day. The link's in the description if you want it. We'll see you next time. Onward and upward.